it is Amber Kivett here. I wanted to share with you one of our devices, the whole body platform, the Turbo. A lot of you might already have the Turbo at home. Those of you that don't, you're about to see how it fits into the lineup of the rest of our platforms. So I'm really excited to share this with you today. So you're seeing this straight out of the box. This is one of our three-dimensional platforms versus the 2D and 4D platform, or the linear. This is a 3D platform. It falls in the lineup between the Waver and the Hobart. And so just as you see it here, nice size platform, a little bit smaller than the Hobart and a little bit bigger than the Waver. And I've got the Waver Mini and the Hobart here to share with you the comparisons. We've got a very nice size manual here so that if you have any questions on how to operate it once you get yours at home, you can always resort back to this. So here we go. I love doing unboxing events. We have so many awesome products that our consumers are looking for. We are here to help with pain management, pain relief, to make you feel at your best. I'll take away the box. Okay, and so I'm going to take the plastic off of this, and I have to get around the little suction feet on the bottom, which are quite handy if you have hard floors or tile. They suction to your floor to keep them in position, and so that's what the front of this looks like. It weighs just a little bit less than 40 pounds, so there's what it looks like up close in person, okay? And when we look at what comes in the bags, we've got our power cord, and we have a set of resistance bands that come with most of our other devices. So you can make your workout as easy or as hard as you want it to be. The beauty of the platforms, it doesn't matter which platform you get, they are really good for a lot of different things. Specifically, I'm going to talk to you today about how to use the different settings for fat loss, for lymphatic drainage, for developing more muscle growth, for developing power, to improve your human growth hormone release. If you are suffering of osteoporosis, this helps with increasing your bone density without the use of drugs. Helps with a lot of different things. If you are fighting a lot of stress in your life and you've got autoimmune dysfunction, it helps with improving immunity. So at a time right now where everybody's stressed out, it's really good just for helping with anxiety, helping with stress hormones, cortisol. It lowers cortisol. Those of you that are have developed joint pain because you're either sitting around a lot or you've had to change where you're working from lately, it helps to keep your joints nice and loose and lubricated. It doesn't matter if you've had a joint replacement or not, you can still use our products. And then inside of our bag, we have all of these mini loop bands, all the way from an ultralight to a heavy resistance. I'll show this to you up close. They're mini loop bands, so you can use whichever you want based on whatever your goal might be, okay? We're going to show you how to get started with those kind of things today. And then we have the remote, okay? The remote requires AAA batteries that do not come with the unit, so make sure that you've got AAA batteries handy at home. The remote is incredibly resourceful, so you want to make sure that you have those available so that you can use your remote to your advantage. There's a lot of things you can do with the remote that make it much easier to operate. So we've got the remote loaded and ready to go. And so if we look at the bottom, okay, on the bottom, we've got these really sticky feet that keep the device in contact with your floor. You can use this on carpet at whatever is the convenient location for you. If you need a wall for balancing, you want to do it in your kitchen next to your countertop so that you have something to hold on to. This device is really, really good for developing balance or improving balance. If you're trying to work on posture control, it's really good for that as well. We're going to take our power cord And we're going to put it here in the front where the breaker switch is. So right here in the front, you're gonna put it in with the prongs, and I want you to push hard until you feel it lock in, okay? And then from here, we're gonna plug it into a power source. We also are I'm gonna show you how to use your resistance bands. These attach to these little metal eyelets on the ends. So you're gonna find them on each end. Now, the one thing that we have found with a lot of our users is the resistance bands are too long. So if you're trying to use the resistance bands for more of a challenge, an added challenge versus for balance, because these will also help with grounding you to your device, what you can do is you're gonna pull on this little cover, okay? And underneath of that, you're gonna slide part of that resistance band through. I like to say 4 to 6 inches is enough of an adjustment that you can use it to your advantage in creating extra resistance, but it's not adjustable after that. So in other words, if you're needing something a little harder for bicep curls, or you're needing something a little harder for rows with the elbows, you're gonna have to adjust this to whatever works best for you, depending on where you want the length and the resistance to be. And that length is gonna be different for everybody. So I say 4 to 6 inches is ideal. And you want it to be pretty close to the same on both. So pull through, okay? So I just pulled that strip through, and then you're gonna create a knot with that one piece. And so we're gonna create the knot. We're gonna pull it tight. So there's my knot, okay? And then for safety, I'm gonna wrap it around the handle. This is how I do it with my device so that I can get the most out of the resistance that I can. And then you just push that cover back up and it clicks right in place. And now we have a heavier resistance band that we can attach to our unit, okay? So from here, we're gonna take this, we're gonna pinch the end, okay? Pinching the end. And we're gonna slide it through this little eye. It's a little metal eye on the side. We're gonna thread that through until we can see the loop. We're gonna take the handle and run it through the loop. And then pull tight, and now it is attached to your device, okay? So we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm gonna pull the cover down, thread through some of the resistance tubing, about 4 to 6 inches, whatever is equal to the other side. And you can check both sides to make sure that you're equal, and then you'll tie a knot. You don't have to do this. I do this to make it more challenging for me because the bands are too long for me since I'm short. Tying my knot, okay, running my handle through the hole there so it's nice and secure, and then pull that cover back up. And so that's how I do it. This is not originally designed to do that. I just kind of came up with that hack a while back to make it more user-friendly for anybody who wants to be able to use it. So we're gonna pinch the end, okay? Pinch the end, and then we're gonna run it through the other O-ring on the other side, or the I-ring, whatever you wanna call it, okay? And from here, take your handle through the hole and pull tight, and now we have resistance bands attached. All right, so let me go ahead and plug this in so that we can make sure that it's working. Sorry for the delay. I have like an ultra long extension cord. All right. Here we go. So now I've got it plugged in, so we can now take it for a test drive. Now, I'm gonna bring the camera to you with the device so that you can see the front of my device. Super excited that you just bought your turbo. I'm gonna show you some little secrets here. All right, so if we're looking at our device, okay, we have our power button, okay? Now, if you push the power button and the power doesn't come on, guess what? You gotta flip the switch back here first. So there we go, all right? So from here, it comes with 9 preset programs. So if we push this middle button, you see an HA. HA means that it is in manual mode. kind of blurry coming through my phone, but if we push, so right now I'm in manual mode, okay? The one on the left that says H, that is going to be your pulsation motor, comes with 2 different motors. And then the one on the right, the L, is gonna be your, oh, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. Your H is your pivoting motor. So that's what's making it teeter-totter from side to side. And your L is your vibration, okay? So if we're wanting to increase the vibration of the unit just using the touch panel, you're gonna push the plus on the speed, and it's gonna create more and more vibration, but it doesn't change the amount of tilt, okay? So if I go back to increase the amount of tilt, then we're gonna use this speed button. Okay, now the speed didn't change, but the amount of tilting has. Okay, so if you want to adjust both of those, then now we've increased vibration and we have increased the amount of pivot we've got going on. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, I'm gonna push pause here or turn it off. And then from here, again, the graphics are just really kind of hard to see with this from this angle. There we go. Now, if we're looking at the set button, if I push the set button, it's going to give you a P1, a P2, a P3, all the way through until we get to a P8, and then it starts back into manual mode. Okay, so you can choose whichever preset program you might want, and then you push the play button, and then it kind of runs itself. And all you have to do is stay on, whether you've got your feet on it from a seated position or from a standing position. Now, unfortunately, this unit does not have a sound lock button, which means that the sound, you really can't get rid of the beeping and the sound. On the Rumble X series, it does have a speed or a sound off button, but for the Turbo, it unfortunately does not. Okay, so we're back. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you how to use your remote, because the remote is kind of tricky on this. So what I wanna go through here real quick, if we're looking at our handy dandy remote, okay? We have our power button on. We have our play, start, stop button. We have a pause button. So if you want to pause your workout and take a break, come back to it, you can do that before it kicks itself into a standby mode. It takes about 3 minutes from your machine to go from being turned on to going into a standby mode, which means it just kicks itself off unless you turn the breaker switch off. Now, this is where this gets a little tricky. So our P button there means programming. So you can choose between P1, P2, P3, P4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, or you can go into a manual mode setting. If you are using a preset program, then you don't have to worry about any of the other buttons on this remote. Makes your life way easy, okay? However, if you're wanting to use it for manual mode purposes, so you're wanting to create your own workout, okay, then you're gonna push the P button until you get into what looks like an HA on your control panel. That means manual mode, okay? And then from the manual mode, we have the pause button here. We have the speed toggle button right here. And then we have 3 different levels of intensity. We've got a mid, it says mid, okay, which is medium intensity. Medium intensity is gonna be for your intermediate user, or depending on what your goals are. Your low intensity is gonna be for all beginners, regardless of what your goals are. And your high intensity is gonna be for those who are wanting the ultimate, okay? Now, when it comes to setting your time, when it comes to the button that's here, okay, you're dealing with 2 separate motors because we've got 2 different motors on here. Again, the L motor is what refers to as the vibration, okay? So you're getting a lot of vibration with the L motor. The L motor on this, as I double check some things, the L motor looks like a little clock, okay? So this button right here and this button right here refer to the L motor. So increasing and decreasing, okay? So if you're trying to set the time for, you have to set the time before you start the unit. You can't set the speed until after you start the program. So if you're trying to set the time for the L motor, which is your pulsating motor, okay, then you're gonna use increasing buttons, these two right here. When it comes to increasing the time for the other motor, because you can set a certain amount of time for one motor and set a different amount of time for the other. So this is where it can get confusing. Then you're gonna use these two buttons right here, and those are for your pivoting or your oscillation or your teeter-totter feature, okay, to make it easy to understand. So the vibration, you don't see a change in how the machine moves, you just feel an intense change in the vibration. When you are wanting to feel more teeter-totter, side to side, we call that pivoting or oscillation. And that pivoting or oscillation creates your body to jiggle a little bit more, I guess is the easiest way to explain it. So if you're wanting to lose fat, you're working on cellulite, you're working on human growth hormone increased release, you're working on increasing overall muscle tone or muscle growth, or you're trying to work on power as an athlete, or again, I think I said cellulite. If you're trying to work on some of that, you're gonna want your speed of your pivot to be a little bit more because you can feel that a little bit more and your body responds to that. The vibration, what I like to refer to this is, it is creating a gentle earthquake, kind of the perfect storm for your connective tissue, your fascia, things that are stuck together, but it also helps in creating a contract, relax response for all of your muscle spindles, which then creates an artificial pump for your lymphatic system. So, because our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like our heart pumps blood, our lymphatic system is our garbage disposal system, but it doesn't have its own little pump. So if you're trying to detox, or you're trying to mobilize fluid in your body because you're stagnant and you're holding a lot of extra water, you're trying to get rid of that, then you're gonna go with a lower setting. And so if you choose to go into manual mode, which is HA, then you can choose the low button, this one right here in the middle. You push that button automatically and it's gonna put you at a speed of like 30, okay? And a speed of 30 is about that magic range for low intensity, for lymphatic, for detox, and it's gonna set you up for, whatever time you want, up to 10 minutes. You can't do any more than 10 minutes before you have to start it over and restart a new program. If you are wanting to go mid or medium, that's your intermediate level use, that's gonna be more for your fat loss, your cellulite control, more joint play. So if you're trying to increase the viscosity or the how loose and comfortable your joints are feeling, if you're feeling really stiff, your knees hurt, your shoulders hurt, your hips are sore, joint play is kind of gonna be your intermediate or your mid on the button, okay? If you're wanting to work more on advanced posture and more balance, you've just suffered an injury and you're trying to come back from balance, because balance and coordination are one of the first things you lose with that. Then after you've introduced yourself to the platform on a low level for a program, to making sure you adjust to that well, then you can jump into the mid mode, which is this button right here. So you don't have to worry about the speed. It automatically goes straight to a 60, which is our intermediate, medium level, if you will. Now, if you're a go-getter, die hard, wanting to get the fat off, wanting to not bulk up, not get really, really big, but you're wanting to increase your muscle tone and create more muscle growth or transformation, I like to call that. Or maybe that you're just trying to work on this for anti-aging, which means you need growth hormone release. You're trying to stimulate growth hormone, which keeps us from aging too fast. After you turn in your 30s, that growth hormone gets less and less and less. The beautiful thing about the whole body platforms, all of them, is they help promote a greater release of growth hormone, which makes us feel great, makes us feel young. It's the fountain of youth, often referred to that. So you're gonna want to go more of a high speed, which is gonna be around a 90 when you're pushing the high button, but you don't have to touch the unit after that. Once you push that button, it keeps you at 90 all the time. Now, if you're one who gets bored, I get bored with the same old thing for a good 10 minutes, and you wanna mix things up a little bit, then you can push this M button. And the M button is what we call the speed toggle button. And so you can push that and it's gonna bounce back and forth between the low, the middle, and the high. And so the middle or the low speed is gonna be a 20, the middle is gonna be a 50, and the high is gonna be an 80. So you can push that button, push it again, and then push it again, and it's gonna bounce between those 3 levels so that you don't have to restart things. The levels that you're bouncing between with the speed toggle button, the 20, 50, 80, are different than those from the low, the mid, and the high. So it's not consistent with if you go into one of those preset programs, because the difference is a 30, 60, 90 versus a 20, 50, 80. I know some of you are like, what does any of that mean? Don't worry about it. If that's like too complex for you, stick to the preset programs, because that's what I like to do, and it's way easier to do that. You don't even have to think. So the preset 1 through 2, so preset 1 and 2 is going to be more of your low level programming for beginners. And so that's going to be more for your detox, your lymphatic drainage, working on posture, working on balance, and for bone density. Your P3 through P5 are going to be more of your medium mid level. Again, that P3 to P5, if you're wanting to work on fat loss, wanting to work on cellulite, wanting to get our joints feeling better, or you're wanting to work more aggressively on posture and balance, you're going to choose P3 or P5. If you're a go-getter and you're really wanting to get the weight off, getting more fat loss, increasing lean muscle mass, increasing power and human growth hormone release, and you're really going after the high levels of bone density improvement, P6 through P8. But if you've never used a platform before, make sure that you get used to a P1 through a P5 before you just jump into a P6, because it'll be a shocker on your body. So that means less is better when you're getting started, and then once you get comfortable with that, then you can progress your way up. Okay, so we have covered all of that, I think. Now, what I'm going to do, because I want to show you some comparisons. I get this question all the time. What is the difference in size between the other models? And so I have the Hovert out here, and I've got the Waver Mini. And so I'm going to hold each one of these up for you so that you can see the difference in size. I don't have an actual Waver with me. I just have the Waver Mini. But just to give you some perspective, this is the Waver Mini, and it's on top of the Turbo, okay? So this is the size comparison between the two, and I'm gonna bring you over here so you can see this, because I like to make sure you can understand where I'm coming from. Okay, so the Waver Mini is on top, and the Turbo is on the bottom right now, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put my Hovert in front of them on the floor so that you can see them all together. Okay, we're back. There we go. So this is the Hovert, okay? This is the first platform I ever bought, okay? And it is really about the same size, almost identically the same size as the Turbo. So the preset programs, very similar. Really, there's not a whole lot of difference between the Hovert and the Turbo. So whatever we've got in stock when you're wanting to pick out one of the platforms, they're both 3-dimensional platforms. They both have 2 motors. They've got different preset programs, but they both come with preset programs, and the remote is in many ways the same. So that's just to give you some perspective. The Waver Mini is this little guy. It's our smallest platform. And the Waver Original, the regular size Waver, is a little bit bigger than this one, smaller than the Turbo. And it only has it only has 1 motor. So it's a completely different feeling than our 3-dimensional series. So if you're trying to figure out where to get started if you're doing lymphatics, if you're working on just balance, maybe you're a senior citizen, or I like to refer to you guys as masters athletes, or the older active population, start with one of our lower levels if you're not sure about balance or the complexity of our units. The Turbo is a really good one that you can start with if you're planning on using the preset programs. And if you are wanting something very light to take with you from, if you're going camping in a 5th wheel, or if you're going, in motor bus, or you're going to another home or a cabin, you're a snowbird and you want to carry one that's much smaller, the Waver Mini is the one to take with you. It's a lot smaller than the others and it weighs a lot less, so it's easy to transport from one place to another. But if you're going to go somewhere and stay there for a while, the Turbo is a really good one to look at for just all of your basic things. If you are wanting something more complex with all the bells and whistles, you need to upgrade yourself into the Rumble X series. Doesn't matter which one, the Rumble X Pro, the Rumble X Plus, which is flat and does have the sound off button, and then the Rumble X 4D. So the Rumble X 4D and the Rumble X Pro both have a little bit of a curve to them, whereas the Rumble X Plus is completely flat across the top. So that's the size comparison between those models. Now, I'm just going to stand up here because I know some of you are wondering, okay, I've got my machine at home, not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with it. So I'm going to walk you through that right quick. All right. I'm just going to read some comments here. Okay, for those of you who are just getting started with your platforms, don't be afraid of the platforms. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you a really quick trick. Hang tight. It's quite simple. You start with a chair. So if you're worried about hurting your back, it's easy enough to just grab a chair. And I'm just going to go ahead with a preset program. I'm going to go with P3 just because, no particular reason. P3 is going to be the first level for an intermediate workout. Okay? And I'm just going to sit my feet on here. I'm going to push play. And then I don't have to do anything. So it's going to do its thing for 10 minutes. And I just get to sit here and enjoy the massage on my legs. So as long as you are seated and you're comfortable, you're not going to hurt your back if you're worried about hurting your back. When you worry about hurting your back, make sure that you're keeping your legs relaxed. So you don't want your knees locked out when you're in a standing position. That's going to lead to more discomfort in your back because the energy travels directly through the knee joint, through the hip joint, and then the back. If your back is your weakest point, that's where all the energy is lost. So yeah, so this feels really good. So P3 to P5, that's your intermediate level. I'm on P3 right now. Fat loss, cellulite, joints, posture and balance. And then the cool thing about all of our platforms, no matter which level of intensity you use, whether it's super low level or really high level, we're working on bone density on all of it. And we're working on activating our muscles and mobilizing circulation. So if you have circulation issues, if you're diabetic and you are working towards more circulation into your limbs, you can start out low, but any of our devices, any of our levels will get you more circulation down into your legs. If you've got restless leg syndrome, this is like the best kept secret without medication ever. I've got a lot of clients that come in just to use the platform for restless leg syndrome because as long as they use it, they don't have restless leg syndrome. When they quit using it, if they go for a couple weeks at a time, then they run into problems. So, and then let's say that I'm bored with this workout, so we just stop, okay? So I've just paused it, okay? And then from here, what you can do, again, you can go through the preset programming or I'll go with the manual mode. So I'm gonna push my preset, the middle P, okay? I'm gonna push the P, pushing the P until I get through to what says an H and an A, and I just bypassed it by accident, so we're gonna go back through it. Okay, so I'm in HA mode. All right, now here's the cool thing. I need to increase in time, and so you can increase the time using these middle buttons right here, okay? But remember, we've got two different motors, okay? So if we push either one of these are increasing, decreasing one motor, we have to increase or decrease another motor, okay? If you don't want to meddle with creating a program for each motor and you just want to jump right in, but you don't want to do a preset program, then go straight to the M button right here, or go straight to hitting low, mid, or high because it activates both motors at exactly the same time, and so you don't have to manipulate the motors. So I'm going to do that. And I'm gonna do this from a seated position just because it's comfortable for the moment. So I'm gonna start with low, maybe. Okay, 1 second here. Oh, we gotta set our time first. So you can set your time, or what you'll do is you'll just push start, and then you can push the M. So if you set your time first by increasing the minutes, well, let's try something here real quick. Sometimes we learn this stuff as we go, even as professionals that are supposed to know the equipment. Sometimes it's a learn on the go, and again, because the remote is always different for each one of our devices, and the control panel is different for each one of our devices, it can get a little complex. So we're gonna go into manual mode, which is HA, and I just pushed play, so it's on. It has already by default set itself to 10 minutes. So if you don't want to meddle with each motor, each separate motor, meaning if you don't care if you're getting vibration and pivoting and oscillation, but you want to go straight to a specific speed without having to adjust both motors at the same time, you can push the mid, the low, or the high button, and it'll automatically kick you into that speed. So I just hook myself to the high level, so I'm really shaking it up. Actually feels really, really good. But let's say my body starts to itch, okay? Which happens quite often. So let's say I'm itching and the itching is becoming really intense. I'm gonna kick it back into low mode, which is that lymphatic detox mode, because I have created this huge increase in toxicity. I have increased our lactic acid threshold. Lactic acid is what stimulates the growth hormone release. So if you get yourself to where you're itching and you want to get out of the speed that you're in, then click straight into the low mode button, and it'll take you right to the low so that you're out of that high speed on both motors. I know this is really confusing at times. And let's say you're in the low setting, which I'm on right now, and I really don't feel a whole lot of anything happening. Just kick it up a notch and push the mid, the MID on your remote, the middle level, and it's just going to increase it just enough to stimulate you into that medium speed mode. The medium speed is 34 to 66. It has up to 99 levels of speed, and I know speed can get confusing as well. Just don't outthink it. So here's what's really important to understand. Yes, you can itch. The itching is a detox. It's a histamine response. That means you're breaking free a lot of toxins and a lot of stuff that's been trapped in your connective tissue for a while. You got to get that stuff out of your body. And so if you're not quite sure what speed to go to, don't worry about the specific number unless you're really trying to create your own personalized fitness program. You can get really complex with it, which we don't have to. And just use the low, medium, or high speed, which is going to put you at that 30, 60, or 90, okay? And again, those all correlate to whatever the end goal is. So if you're brand new to this and you're just wanting to get it because it's supposed to help with pain relief, and it's supposed to help with cellulite, and it's supposed to make you feel better moving, start with a P1 or a P2 preset program so you don't have to think about it. Or just turn on the manual mode and push play, push start, and then go straight into low mode so that you're working both motors in low mode at the same time. And you might try that for 2 to 5 minutes. If you don't feel anything different, no stimulation, then up the intensity because you're in manual mode. So you can go straight to the medium or to the high, or you can even push the M, which toggles you through a different speed. It's lower levels of speed for each interval, but you don't have to think about it. You can just keep your finger on the same button, okay? So like right now, I'm in more of that high. I'm at 80 speed instead of 90 speed. If I want to be at 90 speed, then I can just hit the high button, and I go straight into 90, which is 10 faster than what I would be if I was using the M button. So simply put, the M button on your remote gives you the option of going from low to middle to high intensity with just using one button. That's the convenience of it. Me personally, I like to stick to the preset programs because the scientists who put the unit together know the programming enough that they have made it so we don't have to think about it. So I like the preset programs. I don't ever use my unit, me personally, I don't use my unit in manual mode very often at all, no matter which unit I'm on. But P1 and P2 are low level, so detox, beginners, lymphatic drainage, bone density, working on your posture, working on your balance. All right, so I'm gonna go into low level mode here, and I'm going to just stand, and I've got my tennis shoes on today. I don't normally wear tennis shoes when I'm on the platform, but I just happen to have them on at the moment. So we're on low level right here, okay, and you can see I'm jiggling, okay, and it feels really, really good. Now, because I have tennis shoes on, I'm rolling my legs more to the outside, which is gonna place more pressure on your knees and your hips. So again, if you're not sure that you have control over your body, then please feel free to go barefoot, because barefoot is my favorite. That's when you can really get grounded on the device. And so if you're working on balance, what I want you to think about doing is lifting your toes and pressing your toes. So moving your toes, because if you think about how an eagle or how a bird moves on a branch, they're using their talons to stay put. A lot of animals use their toes or their feet, their hooves, whatever you want to call whichever animal. It's their balance. So if you're working on balance and you struggle with balance, my goal to you is to try and get as much of the bottom of your foot in contact with the platform. The more that the whole part of your foot is in contact with the platform, the more neurostimulation your brain is going to get. Because you see on the bottom of your feet are thousands of little small cell nerve bundles. They're neuroreceptors that communicate with your brain feedback about where you're at in space. We call that proprioception. Your body's awareness of where it is at in the room. And those little sensors that teach your body where you should be and get really excited about that stuff only exist, 80% of those only exist on the skin on the bottom of your feet. So that's why I like to do barefoot work on the platform. Now, if we're doing a lot of dynamic movements, which I've done in some of the other videos that I have shared with Lifepro, you might want to have shoes on for those. But if we're just working on balance and posture, barefoot for sure is the way to go if you can tolerate it. If you can't tolerate it, it's better to have shoes on than to not do it at all. So whatever works for you is fine. But what I want you to think about doing is spreading those toes out as wide as you can and making as much contact with the whole bottom of the platform, okay? And so from here, I'm just gonna choose a preset program. Let's try 7, just to try 7. All right? Knees need to be nice and relaxed. So if you're worried about your back hurting, okay, make sure and keep your knees nice and relaxed, because when you go to lock out your knees, every bit of that energy is right here. I can feel it, okay? So this is relaxed with my knees bent. If you're not quite sure if your knees are locked or unlocked, just straighten your legs and tighten your thighs, tighten them up really, really tight, and then just relax just a little bit until you feel your knee come forward, just a tad. A lot of people don't realize that they're locked out, but you don't want to be locked out with the knees, because it can actually cause you to pass out because the energy comes through the knees. And so there's a condition in which if your knees are locked out and with motion, it can actually cause you to pass out. We don't want that. So make sure that your knees are somewhat unlocked, nice and relaxed, okay? I'm not going to share with you a specific workout on this today. I just want to make sure you know the do's and the don'ts. If you're not sure about balance, okay, what you can do is you can grab those resistance bands, and although we're not going to work on curling, okay, when you just hold your resistance bands, it actually grounds you to your platform even more. So if you're really worried about balance, if you hold on to the handles, it actually stabilizes you more. And then, of course, last but not least, if you're working on balance and you're working on posture, feel free to use a wall or to use a countertop. You know, put it behind your kitchen counter or next to the sofa, so you have something to refer to if you need to for balance. But really, really good for a variety of different things. So let's talk about posture. So what I want to do, I want to turn this platform to the side. I don't think I've ever taught something like it, like this way. So I'm going to turn the platform to the side so that you can see what my body is doing total through. When you're on the platform, okay, now if I'm locked out, you can see my butt shift and you can see my knees shift. So if I'm locked out, this is locked out, this is relaxed, okay? Locked out, relaxed, okay? Now, what I want you to think about doing, because the whole reason why I got involved with Lifepro was because of my pelvic floor. I had a total hysterectomy a year and a half ago, and the muscles in my pelvic floor quit working. And the platform actually saved me and reactivated my pelvic floor by doing, you know, what I'm about to tell you. So what I want you to imagine, because we've all been here before, okay? What I want you to imagine is that you have to go to the bathroom really, really bad, and you don't have anywhere to go. So you are going to tighten up the front, and if you have incontinence issues with the back, you're gonna clench your back so that you don't leak. That's the easiest way to explain this. If you hold your pee and you hold your poo, even though you don't have it, but you're imagining this, okay? If you think about that, the whole pelvic floor inside starts to create a contraction and you activate, all right? So if you just think about tightening up here and here from deep inside, holding your potty, then pelvic floor activates. Now, it's really important when you are holding really well through the pelvic floor, engaging your pelvic floor to make sure and breathe, okay? And because we as a society look down a lot of you are like this, your shoulders are rounded forward, your head is forward, okay? What I want you to think about doing is pulling your shoulders down and back and tilting your head up to level, just looking up, okay? That's what I want you to think about doing. What I teach a lot of my clients is if you can imagine having an orange right here in the middle of your shoulder blades, and you just hold the orange in place with your shoulder blades, that actually lengthens these chest muscles. If you have tight neck, upper traps, so these muscles right here, you always have a pounding headache coming from right here or here. A lot of times we are really rolled forward with our shoulders instead of being back here, we're here. These guys back here get really long and start spasming out of control because they're tired of being overstretched. And it's really hard to engage and get up and back because these guys are so short. So in order to get rid of the upper trap or neck shoulder issues, you have to think about bringing those shoulders down and back and getting your head up. And that will take the pressure off of these muscles because those muscles are supposed to do a variety of different stabilizations. But because of our posture in the world right now, with all the e-learning and all of the stuff on the internet and all of our smartphones, we're down here a lot. So we need to open up. So if you think about head and chest high, squeezing the shoulder blades with an orange and keeping your hands open, okay? So when we're here, the shoulders roll forward and the chest gets tight. But if we open up our hands, okay, opening up our hands, welcoming everybody in, we're not closed away to everybody, we're opening it up to everybody, then here, this is a great posture, okay? Just make sure your knees are bent. So, let's try a preset program again. I'm gonna go P4, just for fun. No particular rhyme or reason, just because. So, we're contouring as much of our foot in contact with the platform as possible. I'm locked out and now I'm slightly relaxed. So knees are at least not locked. You don't have to be in a squat, okay? You just want your knees unlocked, okay? Head and chest is high. Palms are open, like I'm ready to put a plate on my palm or give me some money, okay? Instead of I'm not ready for anything. My hand is closed. So open your hands up. Open your heart and your chest up and squeeze those shoulders down and back and then just relax with this. So if you have back pain, this is more often than not one of the greater causes that I professionally see back pain for, is because we are so forward and the back has to compensate for that. So be nice and tall, open your heart, open your chest, open your hands, and relax your knees, okay? And last but not least, activate that pelvic floor. Now, you can just stand here for the duration of the 10 minutes and just do this position by itself. Or what I like to teach is doing pelvic tilts. So if you find on your body, if you find where your hip bones are and you place your hands there, if you can imagine, you have a belt buckle right here, okay? And what I want you to do, I want you to tilt the belt buckle towards your chin, okay? When you do that, you're gonna feel a stretch down here in your low back, which we all need, okay? Now, I want you to tilt your belt buckle to the floor. Another way of thinking of this is your pelvis is the equivalent of a bucket of water, okay? And so if your bucket of water sits level, if I want to pour water out of my bucket through my belly button, I'm going to tilt my bucket forward, okay? If I'm trying to pouring water out of my bucket through my butt crack, I'm going to tilt my bucket backwards, okay? So forward, backwards, okay? Those are pelvic tilts. Because our pelvis is supposed to be quite mobile, along with our shoulder, so your shoulder and your pelvis are supposed to be mobile joints, we want to make sure that we're actually able to do this. So we're tilting forward, tilting back, tilting forward, empty bucket through the belly, empty water bucket through the butt. Belly through the water through the belly, water through the butt. So that's an easy way to think of it, okay? So you can just do this, just tilting forward and tilting backwards, and it doesn't have to be fast. So you can ease into a position, knees are unlocked, and you can tilt into forward position, okay? Tilting back, tilting forward. So I'm not squatting, I'm just moving my hips, and guess what's attached to my hips? My butt, okay? So, hopefully that helps with everything. That's a lot of information for y'all. Let me check some of these comments here real quick. Okay, so if you've had a blood clot in your leg, and if you have been cleared for walking or riding a bike, you should be okay on the platform. Worst case scenario, stay seated until you start to notice that you're getting more circulation going through your limbs. If you've had a recent blood clot, just make sure you clear it with your doctor that you can get on one of the platforms. But I know that they're using this for a lot, like if you've had cancer treatments, a lot of the cancer doctors, the oncologists, are actually using our platforms to help mobilize some of those toxins out of the body, because the body and the immune system are compromised. And so in order to boost immunity, you got to get those toxins out. So just make sure and check with your physician and make sure that you're okay to ride a bike. If you're able to ride a bike, like a recumbent bike, and you're able to walk, then you should be okay with the platform. I missed some of the questions earlier, so I'll go back through here in a minute. So let's see here. If you are still getting, if you're getting headaches, make sure that you're staying in a very low level of vibration, and make sure that you're in a seated position. You shouldn't be getting headaches necessarily from a seated position on a very low level unless you're detoxing, because again, the detox is level 1 and level 2, entry level, level 3, if you will. And detox, headache is a form of detox. So if you're getting headaches while you're using the machine and you're in a seated position, you are activating your garbage disposal system. You are activating your lymphatic system. So make sure and drink lots and lots of water. So half of your body weight in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, 100 ounces a day minimum of not other fluids, but clear fluids such as water or Pedialyte. The other thing that is really important is that you are replacing any kind of electrolytes in your system. If you are constipated or you're dealing with constipation, magnesium is a really good element for, or a really good electrolyte for, it's a natural laxative, magnesium is. So talk to your doctor, your healthcare provider about what form of magnesium, because it comes in several different forms. But electrolytes, magnesium, calcium, sodium, potassium, a lot of those are really important. So if you're suffering from headaches, and you notice that you're starting to feel sluggish after being on a platform, your body's in detox mode. So that can be an overstimulation. Just back off for a day. Try it again for another 2 to 5 minutes on a low level setting from a seated position if you get another headache. back off, try it again a couple days later, but make sure that you're getting fluids, because when you're detoxing, this is really important. When you are detoxing, if you're not eating really good food, not meaning like fruits and vegetables that aren't filled with chemicals, but if you're eating any kind of food that has chemicals in it, you're putting toxins right back in where you're trying to detox them out. So everything that you eat, everything you put on your skin, everything that you drink, and what you breathe, every pill that you take, those are all forms of toxicity. And yes, we do have to put fuel in our tank. We just have to be more sensitive when we're going through the detox process. We have to be sensitive what we're fueling back up with. So hopefully that helps that question. How long should beginners go slow until you can use a preset 1 or 2? You can start as a beginner, jump on there, turn on preset 1 or 2, start from a seated position. If you feel comfortable in a seated position, go to a standing position. There's a great program that I have shown with Lifepro, and you can type it into the search engine with our page. But if you type in senior citizen workout or the master's athlete workout, I taught 3 of those a few weeks ago, and I showed how to go from a seated position to a standing position in the same program without having to compromise the workout. So if you are afraid to go from into a standing position and you've been in a seated position for a long time, I teach you how to progress yourself from a seated to a standing position carefully, and then going back to a seated position if you get tired. There's really no time frame. The goal of each program that you're doing as a user is very dependent to your needs and your goals. I like to share that there are so many people, we all have most of the same body parts for the most part, but we are all constructed so different. And it is our connective tissue, our fascial connective tissue system that changes our makeup, and there's no 2 human beings that are built the same. And so when it comes to what we are suffering from as we age, or maybe you are a kid, these are really good for kids too, really good for anxiety, really good for ADHD, really good for depression. Again, you're releasing a lot of happy hormones. I didn't mention that earlier, but you're releasing dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And those are the chemicals in your brain that make you a more positive, happy person, more energy. And it's lowering the cortisol and the adrenaline, which is your fight or flight hormone. Those are the hormones that make you more exhausted over time. When those are working too hard, or you're getting too much of that all the time, that's when autoimmune disease sets in, and that's when we start to get sick and we're exhausted and we're tired and we're cranky and everything else that happens. So there's no right or wrong to where to start. As long as you start level 1 or level 2 and you do that for 10 minutes, see how you feel the next day, and if you don't feel any different, then boost up to P2 or P3, but it all depends on your goals. So if your goal is to work on cellulite control, or you're wanting to improve cellulite level in your system or how it appears, or you're trying to lose fat, you're going to start at a different level than somebody who's trying to detox. But just remember, you have to detox before you can lose fat. You can't just jump right into fat. And a lot of individuals think that in order to lose fat, you have to work out hard, long, and sweat profusely, and it's quite the opposite. Your body has to be in a recovery state before it will allow fat to release for fuel. And a lot of that comes back to what's going on in the gut. So really, really important. So the question that just popped up, do any of them come with a mat or a cushion? And the answer is yes. This is the mat and the cushion. The Waver and the Waver Mini do not come with this one. I believe the Hovert does, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. But you can contact customer service if you are interested in getting one of these custom sized mats that go on top of the platform. Nice. If you don't want the contact with your feet or with your hands, if you're doing planks or push-up type position or like a hover, then you can do that. So the question just came up, wobbly legs normal afterwards after 5 minutes. Absolutely. That's a good thing. Again, proprioception is your body's awareness of space. And so the machine is facilitating an enrichment for that. So enrichment meaning it's improving. But unfortunately, because you're used to, it's kind of like having sea legs. If you've ever been on a boat or you've been on a cruise, you first have to get used to that swaying sensation, and then you're home like 2 weeks later and you're still swaying when you're walking down the hallway. It's the same concept. Your brain is just trying to figure out where you're at in space. So if you're a little wobbly, what I tell my clients is to get off slowly and get themselves grounded first. Feel the ground, take a few deep breaths, and then before you take a few steps, just recognize that you're back in contact with the ground mentally and physically. And then if you're a little loosey-goosey in your legs, that's good. That means things are getting loosened up and your body's just trying to kind of reset the mold. Your body made up of all of its parts is what I refer to as the shell. And the soul and the spirit and the health is what is inside of the shell. And so the device is helping to change the frame of the shell. So when it comes to how you're feeling, your body has to get used to that new you, that new version of you, and that can take a few steps. So totally normal to experience that. Let's see here. So let me see, bear with me here for a second. I want to see this other comment. Yes, so make sure and come back to the Lifepro page. I try and release videos at least once a week. I also release videos on my personal business group, which is Kivik Kinetic Solutions. But Joel, I know, is working on creating a platform. It's more of a program, not an actual vibration platform, but it is a database, if you will, that you can go to, or a library of videos of my different movements and the different workouts and the different solutions. So if you're trying to work on detox, if you're trying to work on fat loss, if you're trying to work on moving better after a total knee or a total hip replacement, if you've got a shoulder that's stuck, this is what you're going to do for that. He is working really hard on doing that for anybody who's interested in that. So stay tuned for that in the future. But always come back to the Lifepro page and through YouTube, because we're trying to create as much educational opportunities for all of those of you who have one of our platforms or you have multiple platforms. So just a little word of advice: be ready to become addicted to the whole body vibration platforms, because once you experience the 3D and you haven't touched the 4D yet, if you're addicted to the Waver or the Turbo or the Hovert, the Rumble X is a whole nother animal, and it is my absolute favorite series to work with. There are so many options with that. But if you're afraid to try out the device, don't be afraid. They're not going to hurt you. They're only going to help you. There are very few contraindications, and even the contraindications that are listed in our manuals, there are still patients that are using them under the direction of their doctors, and they're doing very well. So if you have MS, we've got a lot of research that is showing that the vibration platforms improve symptoms of MS. It can't cure it, but it improves the symptoms. And I think most of my clients, 90% of my clients, have instant pain relief after they use one of the platforms in some form or another. So feel free to post other questions and I'll come back and answer them as I can. And again, I want to say thank you for watching and staying tuned. I've been on here for a while. And so if you have questions direct, feel free to reach out to our customer service, and feel free to reach out to Joel or myself. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great day.